We got a mini blog post from the executive producer of Hytale talking about the current state of the game as well as what their intentions are with the current updates. John Hendricks, the executive producer, was trying out a new Twitter feature, which is an article, I guess, but it basically means it's a blog post. And he gave us a pretty good 5-paragraph blog post. He starts off telling us a very important news. The engine progress is still on track. This is something that we learned about in December, where they talked about the fact that their engine is pretty much done and they're working on getting all of their developers over from the old engine into the new one. If you want to know more about what the engine actually is, I could make an entire video separately about that, so just let me know in the comments. But he says the team has been killing it and they are staying on track, which means whatever their deadlines are, they're hitting it, which is a very good sign for whatever the release of Hytale is probably still set. He then talks about the open jobs, which, yeah, there's been a few open jobs and they're adding more jobs what feels like every other week. There's one job in particular though that hasn't really been filled, and that is the lead engineering role. It's slowed things down, but it says it hasn't really hindered them. While it has slowed things down, getting our visuals where we want them, we have talent on task and are not blocked. Then he talks about what something I think all of us are looking forward to, and it's the actual game, the world of Orbis. Back in December, we saw the revamp of the Quebec tribe. They got a brand new village, and one of the key characters, a tree singer, the Quebec Elder, got a completely new design. He kind of resembles Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy now. While this redesign was really only for the Quebecs, we now know that the redesigns are happening to all of the different tribes, such as the Farrens, Trorks, Outlanders, the Undead, and Goblins. So there's a lot of races that I didn't even expect to have any changes. Sure, the Farrens, Trorks, and Outlanders are some of the key factions that make up the world of Hytale, and so it can be expected that they get a new revamp to fit better into the story and the new world of Hytale. But the Undead, for example, just kind of felt like hostile mobs that are there to maybe annoy you or be servants of Varen. But now that we know that they've gotten a revamp, it'll be very interesting to see what they actually turn out to be. He says they're going to tease more in the future, but he wants us to experience it in game. Hytale has been very reluctant about showing us new things. Now, a lot of that has been because either they're working on things or they're not ready, and that is the main frustration. But the other part of it, and even back in 2018, 2019, when they were showing things off, were because of spoilers. We still barely know anything about the story, and they've reiterated about the fact that they really don't want us to know much about the story, so that when we get the game ourselves, we can experience it with fresh eyes. Then he oddly mentions the capital, which was something teased in the last summer blog post about a multiplayer hub, or at least that's what I'm assuming it is because of the way they talked about it. That's where games like Sky Wars, Bed Wars, and all the other mini games, as well as the social interactions, will take place. I assume it's a similar version of what we saw in the trailer and other gameplay clips. He only says that it's come a long way and he's excited to see how it brings all kinds of players together, but a real explanation of what the capital is still isn't found. If I'm gonna be honest, it sounds like a rebranding, similar to how Apple recently rebranded AI to AI, but instead of artificial intelligence, it's Apple intelligence. That's kind of how I feel the capital is. Instead of a multiplayer hub, like it would be in many other games, and even the Hypixel server itself, they call it the capital and give it a bunch of branding. I'd be happy to be proven wrong, and if it's the greatest experience we'll see in all of gaming, then so be it. But as of right now, I think it's just a multiplayer hub, but they say that there's a lot of ways that it brings players together, so I'm looking forward to it. He then finishes off saying that he's excited to share more in the official update, and this is where it gets interesting. There was a question in response to this article saying, will the next official update contain gameplay or pictures by chance? Now, this is something that if you've seen my previous videos, I've talked about many times. The next blog post must show off the new engine because that's what they've been hyping it up for. And he definitely says the next one from me will. This is a confirmation that gameplay or pictures of the new engine are going to be shown off. And I know this is the new engine because the reason they haven't shown off any gameplay, we haven't seen gameplay in over a year, is because they say that the old engine is not indicative of what Hytale stands for today. And so they didn't want to show off the old engine if that's not what Hytale is. And so whatever the new Hytale is going to be in the new engine. A confirmation of the new engine as well as gameplay or screenshots is some of the biggest news that we've had. Now, this isn't much because we still don't know a date. My assumption is that the blog post will come out this summer, as almost every single one of them has. They've all dropped around mid-July, and so it's fair to assume that this one will as well. But they might take their time, as now they've kind of alluded that the next one will drop gameplay. They may not be ready and push it towards end of July or August. I really hope and severely doubt that it's going to take longer than August or September. At that point, they're pushing towards a winter blog post, and I have my own predictions with some pretty good evidence about that, so stay subscribed to see that theory. There was one cheeky little comment that mentioned his wording. He says the next one from me will. But what if the next blog post isn't written by him, instead someone else? In that case, they're not obligated to show us new gameplay or screenshots. And John replied to that saying, okay, that option had not occurred to me. So if that does happen, the option didn't occur to him before, but now has, and we have this Twitter user to blame. But considering that he didn't think of that option, I think we can cross our fingers and say that the next blog post will contain gameplay and pictures. And as a fun reassurance, I want to talk about John's legs real quick. Now, hold on before you get weirded out or click off this video. I mean this seriously. John Hendricks, the executive producer of Hytale, has both of his legs tatted with Hytale characters. Left one has Gaia and the right one has Varen. Now, we've seen pictures of the right one, and it has a really cool Varen picture that'll pop up on screen, as well as a sword, Outlander, and a Void Eye. But the left one has been kept a secret because he's teased that the left leg contains a character that we have not seen before. I'm really excited to see his left leg, as weird as that sounds, but it's also really good reassurance that the executive producer is almost sacrificing both of his legs to Hytale. If he doesn't believe in the project, then I don't think he would get it permanently on his body. So there's some good news that at the very least, one person is dead set on this game and the vision for it. That's everything from John Hendricks. Make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with Hytale news. YouTube thinks that you might like one of these videos. Am I here because I'm trying to get the video to 8 minutes? Maybe. But why are you here? You watched 20 seconds of the outro and you were like, I gotta see what's after the outro. What if there was more outro? What are you doing with yourself? I'm not here to berate you though. I mean, if you're this far and you still haven't subscribed though, that's kinda wild.